This putrid, disgusting rat was created by a game designer named Michael Berlin. He has worked on several games in his life. You might know one called Siphon Filter, though he left mid-development and didn't even want to be credited in the game because he hated the way the games industry was going. He was ahead of his time. He knew what we didn't. When I was playing through and getting footage for Bubsy, I noticed something. It reminded me a lot like Sonic. And that would actually be accurate, as Michael Berlin was addicted to Sonic at the time. He would play Sonic for 14 hours a day. That's a lot of Sonic time. But that's where he got the inspiration from. Bubsy was supposed to release in September of 1992 on the Genesis, but the company they worked for, Accolade, got into legal trouble with Sega. I believe this was due to Accolade distributing unlicensed games or something. I'm not a lawyer. I played Phoenix Wright, that's it. Anyway, fast forward to May of 1993. The game releases for the Super Nintendo, and in July 1993 for the Sega Genesis. And then about 4 years later, the game released on Windows. Why? It looks like ass. I didn't play this version. I've had enough Bubsy in my life. Okay, let's be realistic for a second here. This is the internet, and you're watching a white boy video essay on video game platformers. You probably already know what Bubsy is. If someone sees Bubsy or mentions Bubsy, they recoil in disgust and call it the worst game ever made. However, on release, the game actually got really good reviews. It even got an award, like what? So who is right here? Is it the critics? Or is it the internet? Only my opinion matters. Is Bubsy, Claws Encounters of the Third Kind, the worst platformer ever made? Hi, I'm wron-w-w-wait, and you're watching The Worst Platformer Ever Made, a series where I play platformers 2D and 3D to find the worst one. And today, we're going to be looking at Bubsy. I didn't know this title was a movie reference. Has anyone even seen this movie? I'll watch it later, I guess. If it wasn't obvious enough, Bubsy is a 2D platformer. You move, you run, you jump, you glide. Typical platforming stuff. The momentum in this game, though, is horrible. If you run and jump and then try and go in the opposite direction, you completely stop moving in the air. It feels like it's kind of pushing you against the wind. It's very weird. Other than that, however, this game does one of the worst things a platformer can ever do. One of the biggest things other YouTubers that have reviewed this game complained about heavily when critiquing the game. One of the worst sins a platformer could make. Fall damage. I died once to fall damage. Maybe twice. If you have watched or listened to anyone critique Bubsy, a lot of the time they might go heavy into the fall damage being ass, and that's a fair critique. It shouldn't have fall damage. Just delete it. Remove it from the game. However, it's kind of a non-issue. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I believe if you jump off a high place and just fall, you die, which sucks. That shouldn't be in the game. Get rid of it. But I've noticed if you glide, I didn't take any fall damage at all. So I just did that, and I just glided around most of the time anytime I jumped. It makes it easier to aim where you land anyway, so I'm always going to be doing it. So because I'm always gliding, I'm not going to really take fall damage, so it's not really that big of a deal, but it still should not be in the game. But that doesn't fix the other worse issues with the game. For example, if you get hit once, you die. Why? I don't understand this. The creator pretty much wanted to make a Sonic ripoff, and you had the mechanic for taking damage right in front of you. The collectibles in this game are yarn balls. If you get 500 of them, you get a life. You're never getting 500 of them. But when you take a hit, what it should have done is like what Sonic does and just have your yarn balls explode all over the place and you just take that as damage. And if you take a hit when you have 0 yarn balls, you die. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. You just run into anything and you die. This one-shot feature or mechanic ruins the entire experience because I feel like it breaks everything the game wanted to be. For example, after moving in a direction for a couple seconds, Bubsy starts to move super fast. So fast that you can barely react to anything in front of you, meaning you will most likely just run super fast into an enemy. And that will happen a lot, and because you only get one hit, you just run into them and die over and over and over again. So now, because you know, okay, I can't go too fast or I'll die, you now have to go slow, which is pretty much what I did. Also, if you run into a wall super fast, Bubsy does this animation of him getting just face planted into the wall. This only happened to me like once. It's kind of cute, but why? Anyway, In Sonic, when you try and go super fast, a lot of the time you can react to stuff in time, and if you can't, you'll just get damaged and you'll remember it for next time. Or in the rare case, you will instantly die, which does suck. But because you can take more than one hit, it'll make you want to relearn the level and actually do better for the next time. In Bubsy, because you just get hit once, you don't really want to explore, you don't really want to run around, you just want to take things as slow as possible. There is legitimately something that can kill you that is off the screen almost every couple of seconds later on. It's crazy. If Sonic also had a one-hit death thing like Bubsy, Sonic would be dog ass. Please don't kill me. I even like this dog shit game. In fact, you can kind of notice them realizing most people are going to play the game slow in the later levels because you cannot run fast in the later levels when it's mostly just jumping puzzles. They also realized this with a mechanic that was added. You could hold L or R or hold up and down to look ahead of you or around you. This allows you to see what's ahead of you, but you can't be moving to do it, so you have to stop moving and then look around and then continue. Doing that over and over again would suck, so I didn't do it, and I feel like most people wouldn't do it either. Though, if you couldn't tell by now, this is simply just a get to the end kind of game. The reviewers praise its very large levels, but in my opinion, they are too big. There's a lot of sections in some of the levels where I just have no clue where I need to go half the time. It feels like a giant maze. I feel like the level designs get worse as the levels go on, as a lot of the starting levels just have multiple paths that let you get to the end and it's just a straight line to the right, which is kind of like Sonic, which is perfect for this kind of game, honestly. The only thing that sucks is in some of the starting levels, this gets worse later on, but in the starting levels, there will be paths you could take that just lead to nothing. They're just dead ends. Why? Sometimes the path will just bring you back to the start. Like, come on, don't do that. The later in the game you go, the worse and worse this gets, and then you start having to do leap of faiths and praying you're going in the right direction. Again, I feel like it was trying to be like Sonic in multiple aspects, where you can take different paths to get to the end. But in this case, it's sometimes that does happen in the game, which is cool, but then a lot of the times you're either going in the wrong direction or you're getting led to nothing. This game should have been more compact or linear, or be completely like Sonic, where there are multiple paths to get to the end and it doesn't feel like a maze. Because these levels are huge and sometimes you get nothing from exploring, I don't really want to engage with the level that much. So the strategy I did many times was to get high as possible and then glide over the entire level and pray you don't die when you hit the ground. But because of all the off-screen enemies and all the leaps of faith you'll be doing, you will be dying a lot. You will get a game over. Luckily though, the game does have checkpoints, I guess. It also has a password system so you can continue anytime you get a game over. And like I just said, it will happen because sometimes there are just so many enemies on the screen. You also plug in the second controller, type in a code, and get to any level you want. Though again, it's one of those things where you have to plug in the second controller, so that's already annoying. But that is an overview of the entire game. That is the basics of this game. I know I may have just ragged on it for a couple minutes now, but let's go through the entire game together because there are some aspects of this game that are positives. Before we start, you should know that I'm playing the Super Nintendo version, as that is the version I chose. There are some differences between the Super Nintendo version and the Genesis version. Some people say the Genesis version plays a bit better, but I didn't really notice this that much, and I also found the Genesis sound quality to be worse. So I don't know, it just wasn't for me. Alright, back to the game. Wait, no, one more thing. The story. The story is actually regulated to the comic book inside the manual, which is always cool. I like the art here. Basically, the Woolies want to steal all the yarn balls, and they do, so Bubsy gets pissed off and tries to get them back. Very simple stuff. But now we get into the game, and we get a title screen with his dumb face looking at us. Though the music here is actually not that bad. It's actually quite catchy. While people rag on this game for being bad, there is one thing I cannot call bad, and that is the music. Spoiler alert, but I played some of the future Bubsy games like Bubsy 2 and Bubsy 3D, and the music in those just aren't really anything to be remembered. The music in this game, I remember till now. Like, it's been several days since I played this and I still remember the songs in my head. The soundtracks in this game are really good. But after we hit play game, we get into the game.
What could possibly go wrong?
I will say this though. A Super Nintendo game having voice acting is impressive. I'm used to just hearing grunts or something, like someone getting the shit beat out of them in Street Fighter, not actual voice dialogue. Though a lot of people talk about how annoying Bubsy is. And if I'm being honest, he's not that bad. Sure, if you're AFK, he'll like bang on the screen, but like, who cares? He only really says something when you start the level. That's really it. And then a couple years later, you have Gex saying stupid shit every 2 seconds and everyone loves that asshole. So overall, I didn't find the quips bad at all. He doesn't even do it that much. My quips and cut-ins into these videos are way worse. Anyway, level 1. It's a mountain forest town with houses. Honestly, the game visually looks good. Like, I think it looks fine. There's nothing wrong with this. It definitely doesn't look bad. It doesn't blow me away, but it's not horrible. This level basically serves as a tutorial level, and it's pretty linear. It's kind of like what the game should have been through the whole thing. A relatively small level with multiple paths you can take that lead you to the end. In every single level you have the woolies coming after you, but in each specific world there's a theme of enemies that'll come after you. In this one it's a car and a walking piano for some reason. I'll go over what I think of them a bit later, but that's pretty much the whole level. It's a pretty simple tutorial level. Once you touch the giant yarn ball at the end, the level is complete, and he does this stupid dance. Level 2 is pretty much the same as level 1, though you kinda can go in a cave in this one, and it's where my example comes from of not knowing where to go and there being a bunch of random dead ends. There are multiple paths at the start. One of them leads you into a cave. In this cave, there's a linear bridge. You can walk to the end, flip a switch, and then go back down. What that switch does, I don't know, but I died on the way down. So that switch did something, but I'm just gonna say it's a dead end. Okay, so that's one way we can't go, so let's go another way. I choose to go a different route, and that route I chose is a linear path to the end. Why? Why is there one path that leads you to what I believe is nothing versus a path that just leads you to the goal? Like, why? You choose which path to go down by going on the water slide. It automatically drags you down and plays this strange music. I feel like the song they were trying to go for here is you're losing control and you can't control your character because you can't control your character during this. He just automatically goes down the slide. But it feels like I did something bad by going on this slide. But that's pretty much the entire level. But I decided to look at the map for this level, and yeah, it's pretty much just a straight line, but with this massive cave in the middle. Like, why? You can easily say it's for exploration, but it's not really fun to explore when you have to worry about getting one shot all the time. Anyway, level 3 is basically the same as the other levels. They're just a lot more water. This level is pretty much a mixture of the previous ones, but this honestly isn't really that bad of a level. Like the first level, it's pretty linear and you can't really go off track too much. But after every 3 levels in the game, you fight a boss. In this case, it's these yarn UFO things made by the woolies. I honestly did not even know bosses existed in this game, probably because every single person who reviewed this game and uploaded it to YouTube only played the first 2 levels. Did I say that? Anyway, all you have to do for this boss, and every other boss in this game honestly, is just jump on the boss when the hatch opens up and avoid the dangling wool. If you jump on the boss when the hatch is closed, you just bounce off them. You don't take any damage. What this translates to is you constantly jumping on top of them and not trying to touch the ground and go under them. And this is the game plan for every single boss in this game. But before we move on, I want to mention something. The first 3 levels of this game have these boxes of banana peels all over the place. They just make Bubsy uncontrollable and just slide all over the place. They don't really do anything other than annoy you. They appear a lot in the first 3 worlds, but as the game goes on, they appear less and less and less and less. Why? Level 4 is a carnival theme, because believe it or not, this game has more than the grass world we were in. I actually like the look of theming of this world a lot. You get carnival food stands to games, roller coasters. It's all very colorful. But again, I would like to talk about something I didn't bring up yet. What the hell is this? No, that's not what I wanted to talk about, but rather the enemies. The enemies in the previous world were woolies, which of course is fine, that's the main enemy of the game, but it also had cars and walking pianos, while the carnival has ice cream and hot dogs and flying chickens. Like, why? I like the woolies. They're very neat, they're an original enemy to the game, that is cool. But why are the rest of the enemies just real life objects? That's just lame. This happens for the future worlds as well, like in the jungle you'll start seeing spiders, like, come on. Anyway, this is the one level I died to from fall damage. This is also the level where I realized the speed of this game can go from being slow as hell to what the hell is going on? Look at this! I like the soundtrack that plays once you get this invincibility shirt. It sounds cool. Also, I forgot to mention, the game has shirts you can collect. There is a numbered shirt that gives you lives depending on how many numbers are on it, an invisibility shirt, which I think is the exact same as the next shirt, which is the invincibility shirt. I don't know what the difference between the two are, other than one is black and one is white. They both make you invincible, I think. I wasn't getting hurt when I picked up the black one. You can also jump into a roller coaster in this level and push a button to raise Bubsy's arms up to get collectibles. Now this is the sign of a good game, introducing new mechanics that blend into the platforming that don't get in the way of the player's enjoyment. This is good. But other than that, it's the same deal. Move to the right and you'll find your way to the end. In the next level, level 5, I find out that the ice cream doesn't actually one-shot you like the other enemies do. Okay. Vanilla is the best ice cream flavor, by the way. This level doesn't have anything new. It's pretty much very similar to the last level. It's just a lot smaller. Did they run out of time or something? I really don't have anything to say about this one. Level 6 is a lot bigger than the previous one, of course it is, and it has you on the roller coaster tracks. Though a lot of the tracks here become very, very vertical. They almost become like straight lines. You can jump onto the spinning ship and ride it like the roller coaster you could before, which is a cool mechanic. Again, it's introducing cool, new, fun mechanics that integrate well with the platforming. However, this level overall is massive, and it turns into a maze later on where you need to enter doors to figure out which way you have to go, which can be a bit annoying. Because I have to go all over the place to figure out where to go, I end up dying to one of the enemies. At the end of the level is the boss, which looks the same as the previous one. The only difference is that the wool are different colors, green and blue, and the boss is moving in a different direction than the previous one, though it's the exact same idea. You want to keep on top of them as much as possible and just cheese it because they start moving super quick. But once you jump on them enough times when the hatch opens, the level is complete. Level 7 is the Wild West, and it's kinda cool actually. The idea, at least. The next 3 levels you start on a train, and it's probably the most linear part of the game. You just need to get to the end of the train. While doing so, you get to see a cool ass giraffe. Isn't that awesome? I do feel like this is where they started to give up on the Sonic design of the game, as there's just so many blockades and jumping parts that I don't really think there's a chance for you to go fast at all. They even started putting invincible enemies that if you touch them, you just die. Once you get to the end of the train though, you flip the switch to stop it and move on to the canyon part of the level. But I didn't know that you had to flip a switch at first, so I just jumped off the front of the train thinking there was more level. But once I do it correctly, the second part of the level starts, which are honestly the worst parts of the level. I think in this entire game, these canyon levels are the worst for just spamming you with enemies because there are just so many hills and it just forces you to move fast. But if you move fast, you can't react to the enemies in time. It's annoying, but that's the level. On to level 8, and like I said previously, you start on the train section again. In this level, it's pretty much the same as before. Nothing is really new on the train, though the canyon does have more stuff. It has this! I wanted to do a bit where I grab that, but I don't think I will. You touch the cactus, you die. Obvious. But they have these tiny ass ones that blend into the background, where if you touch them, of course, you die. The canyon also starts adding these mole enemies and sharks to them as well, but the same issue as the last canyon levels. There's just so much shit on my screen. Anyway, on to the next level. In level 9, the train section is annoying this time, as again, it just starts spamming you with enemies that shoot projectiles at you, and you are going to get hit a couple times if you play this for the first time. Not only that, it has a leap of faith you have to take that ends in 2 enemies and a spike pit. Are you kidding me? Anyway, once we get through that mess, we're on to the canyon. I think this is the worst canyon section, as it spams boulders in a way that is super hard to time when you can jump through them. And if you try and take the path under them, the platforms are so high up that your jump will jump into the boulders that are above you, which is super annoying. But once you get past the annoying boulders, you fight the boss. The boss here is again the UFO, but it's slightly different. There's only one this time. Same premise though, you want to stay on top of the boss like the other bosses, but instead of if you fall to the ground and maybe you have a chance at living, if you fall to the ground, you are dead. The boss spawns 1 billion enemies constantly, so if you touch the ground, they'll just grab you and kill you. But if you manage to stay on top of him, you're pretty much good, level is complete. So far, the levels have been mostly linear. Some were huge and some were kind of maze-like, but this is where it becomes a disaster. I feel like if the next 3 levels were removed from this game, the quality of this game would increase. For level 10, I cannot tell these are platforms. The only thing indicating that these are platforms is the bit of grass which blends into the wall in the background. The next 3 sets of levels all have this death water that if you fall into, you die. I'm also not sure what the theme of this world is supposed to be. What are these balls in the background? Why are we in a forest again? Just look at the screen. What is even happening? This level is a mess. This level has these geysers that make you slide on them, which is annoying. Not only that, this level is massive and has these flying enemies. So if you jump high up, you just hit one and die. And unlike the other levels where a solution where if you got lost is just move to the right and you'll eventually find the way, you can't do that here. If you just move to the right, there's a high chance you will just get hit with a wall. So you have to find your way around the wall, which again, is not fun to do when you have a fear of being one shot by everything. Not only that, the geysers sometimes push you into the death water. Where do I go? The level does have these switches, but I have no idea what they even do. All the switches in this game don't tell you a thing about what they do. It's just when you flip them, something in the level happened. I did eventually fumble my way to the end. I have no idea how. Level 11 is the same shit as the last level, but I can actually tell what the switches do. In this level, they drain the water from the bottom, allowing you to walk on the floor. But that doesn't matter that much, because like the last level, this again is a where the hell do I go level, as you don't need to just find one switch, you need to find multiple of them. Not only that, the switches that you need to actually beat this level are mostly high up in the level. And if you fall and not die, you need to redo the entire platforming section again to get back to the top, which takes a very long time to do because you constantly need to go back and forth in this level. It is very annoying. After bashing my head against a wall for a couple minutes, I beat the level. Maybe I won't. I think I beat both levels with sheer willpower of me just jumping really high up and then gliding over everything, and it somehow worked. Level 12, again, is the same stuff as the last 2 levels, so let's go crazy. I think this might be the biggest where the hell do I go in this game, because you're not going to believe this. Once you go to the far right possible you can in this level, you get walled off. There is nowhere else you can go, so what do? Well, there is this moving platform below you need to jump on. But sometimes a crocodile or alligator will jump up and try and eat the platform. So let's say he doesn't appear. If you miss the moving platform, it will just float away. Bummer. Not much you can do about that, might as well die. So once you actually find the platform and you're able to jump on it, which is hard to do because you can't see it below you, you actually have to do a leap of faith to get on it, you can finally fight the boss, because that is the only way to get to the boss. This level is massive, and none of it matters other than the bottom right of the level. Why? This boss is the same as the boss before it, except it shoots missiles at you instead. The missiles destroy your platform if they touch you. Again, just stay on top of the boss and you can't get hit, and he goes down quick enough that it doesn't really even matter. Anyway, on to the next level. It is a bamboo forest. The next 3 levels might be the biggest in the whole game, but they aren't really maze-like, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the levels in this game, you can easily be sent in the wrong direction, but if you just keep going to the right, you're usually on the right track and will get to the end eventually. This level, of course, has a lot of stuff you'll see in the jungle, like frogs and spiders and bugs. Anyway, like I said, climb onto the leaves by going up, move to the right as well, and you eventually beat the level. The difficulty in this game is weird. These levels feel a lot easier than the previous one. The only really thing bad about these levels here is that if you miss a platform, you fall to the bottom, which means you have to redo the climb, which is really annoying. Level 14 is the same idea, but it's even bigger than the last level. I do like how the woolies are themed to this level with their little safari hats. I can be cool too. Though a difference between this level and the last level is this time instead of falling having to restart, if you fall, you just die, which is honestly better than restarting as that saves way more time since you could just respawn at a checkpoint. But that's really it. There's nothing much new in this level. Wait a minute, I do get a bonus game here, which I don't think I've mentioned yet. You get them by going through certain doors, which send you to a level where you want to get as much yarn as possible. If you fall, you get kicked out of the minigame. Out of all the ones I got, I never lasted more than 7 seconds. Bubsy would have been proud of that one. But like I said, this level is pretty much very similar to the last one. Once you get to the end, it's on to the next level, which again is nothing new. The level premise is exactly like the last two, but this level is tiny instead of it being huge. It does have these bamboo looking platforms. I guess that's new, as they're only there for a bit. They're really only in this level, I think. The boss is yet again more UFOs. 2 this time, like the first 2 bosses, but this time they drop yarn and spawn enemies. But as always, just get on top of them and you pretty much win. I have no idea how this was intended to be done. Were you supposed to go on the ground and then jump on top of them? There's no way you're going on the ground with all this shit on the screen. Anyway, on to the last level of the game, 1 space level. Bubsy sums it up well.
Well, are you still playing this thing?
It's a pretty linear space level, but has the issues the other levels have as well, where if you go in an alternate path, it'll probably just be a dead end. I spent way too much time on this level because of the way it starts. You need to flip switches in a specific order, and if you miss one, you have to go back and find it. Or, if you do what I do, and re-flip the switch by walking into it again, and forget which position the switch starts in, you might not realize that, and you'll have to flip it again. A lot of flipping. But that only really happens at the start. Later on, the level turns into an annoyance with how many projectile-based enemies get shoved into the level that are off screen. They're just blasting you and will not stop. You will die a lot on this level. But once that is done, you just take the warp pads in a linear fashion to get to the end, and we meet the final boss. Which, like always, is the same as the other bosses. Get on top of him, and you win. The boss here, though, does just throw so much random shit at you. You better pray you don't get hit. But once that's done, the game is complete. Bubsy gets into a limo showing this was just a movie? What? And the credits roll. I beat it. Why did I do that? Is Bubsy the worst platformer ever made? Going into this, I thought it would be. Everyone says this is the worst platformer ever made, but you should not trust what people online say, because I really think that this game is overhated. Though I need to be crystal clear here, this game is not good. Would I recommend it for someone to play? Hell no. The strongest thing I can describe this game being is just mid. It is one of the most mid games I have ever played. It's not good, it doesn't blow my socks off, but it's also not horrible. I think it's kind of disappointing. This had a lot of mechanics and the potential to be an amazing, outstanding game. This could have even rivaled the greats on the system, but it didn't. It fell flat. This is simply due to the level design not being really good and having very odd and not really great controls. And just getting one shot by everything just set this game back so much. It makes me sad that it could not be as great as it could have been. But unfortunately for me, there are like 4 more games in the series. How?